The date was March 22nd in the year 1765, in an effort to raise funds to pay off debts and defend the vast new American territories won from the French in the 7 Years' War, which took place from 1756 to 1763. The British government passes the Stamp Act. The legislation levied a direct tax on all materials printed for commercial and legal use in the colonies, from newspapers and pamphlets to playing cards and dice. Though the Stamp Act employed a strategy that was a common fundraising vehicle in England, it stirred a storm of protests in the colonies. The colonists had recently been hit with three major taxes: the Sugar Act in 1764, which levied new duties on imports of textiles, wines, coffee, and sugar; the Currency Act of 1764, which caused a major decline in the value of the paper money used by colonists; and the Quartering Act of 1765, which required colonists to provide food and lodging to British troops under certain circumstances. With the passing of the Stamp Act, the colonists' grumbling finally became an articulated response to what they saw as the mother country's attempt to undermine their economic strength and independence. They raised the issue of taxation without representation and formed societies throughout the colonies to rally against the British government and nobles who sought to exploit the colonies as a source of revenue and raw materials. By October of that year, 9 of the 13 colonies sent representatives to the Stamp Act Congress, at which the colonists drafted the Declaration of Rights and Grievances, a document that rallied against the autocratic policies of the mercantilist British Empire. Realizing that it actually cost more to enforce the Stamp Act in the protesting colonies than it did to abolish it, the British government repealed the tax the following year. The fracas over the Stamp Act, though, helped plant seeds for a far larger movement against the British government in the eventual battle for independence. Most important of these was the formation of the Sons of Liberty, a group of tradesmen who led anti-British protests in Boston and other seaboard cities, and other groups of wealthy landowners who came together from across the colonies. Well after the Stamp Act was repealed, these societies continued to meet in opposition to what they saw as the abusive policies of the British Empire. Out of their meetings, a growing nationalism emerged that would culminate in the fighting of the American Revolution only a decade later. On March 22nd in the year 1893, the first women's college basketball game is played at Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts, with each basket made counting as 1 point, and the game lasting 2 15-minute halves. A sophomore class team prevails over a freshman team, 5-4. Men are not permitted inside the gym at the all-women's college, but a crowd of fascinated women cheer on their fellow classmates from the running track of the campus gymnasium. The winning team earns a gold and white banner. The running track of the gymnasium was crowded with spectators and gay with colors of the two classes, according to a newspaper account. One side was occupied by sophomores and seniors, the other by juniors and freshmen, and a lively rivalry between the two parties was maintained throughout the contest. The first women's college basketball game was organized by the college's gymnastic instructor, Lithuanian immigrant Senda Berenson, less than 2 years after the invention of the game in late 1891 by Dr. James Naismith. Berenson's rules were adapted from Naismith's rules for men, making basketball one of the rare sports that developed the male and female versions on a parallel timeline. It was truly a game of basketball in those early years. The object of the game was to land a soccer ball into peach baskets suspended at opposite ends of the court. Despite playing with rules intended to limit physical contact, a player on the freshman team dislocated her shoulder at the beginning of the game, leaving her team a player down for the rest of the game. Versions of Berenson's game quickly spread to other women's colleges throughout the country. The first women's intercollegiate game between Stanford and Cal was played in 1896. Berenson, who continued his attorney in 1954, was enshrined in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame as a contributor in 1985. She was inducted into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in 1999. It was on March 22nd in the year 1983 that the Pentagon awards a production contract worth more than $1 billion to AM General Corporation to develop 55,000 high-mobility, multi-purpose wheeled vehicles, HMMWV, nicknamed the Humvee, and designed to transport troops and cargo. The wide, rugged vehicles entered the spotlight when they were used by the American military during the 1989 invasion of Panama and the Persian Gulf War in the early 1990s. In 1992, a civilian version of the Humvee, known as the Hummer, went on sale. The hulking, attention-grabbing road warrior tipped the scales at some 10,000 pounds and got less than 10 miles per gallon. It was an early hit with Hollywood celebrities such as Arnold Schwarzenegger, who went on to own a fleet of Hummers. In December of 1999, when the economy was strong and gas prices were relatively low, General Motors purchased the rights from AM General to market and distribute the Hummer. In 2002, the Hummer H2, a smaller, some 8,600 pounds, less expensive version of the original model, debuted. The Hummer became a symbol of America's supersized lifestyle. However, the gas-guzzling vehicle was also a target of heavy criticism from environmentalists. According to a 2008 report on Salon.com, in August of 2003, Hummer-hating eco-vandals struck 4 car dealerships in Southern California's San Gabriel Valley, destroying, defacing, and burning dozens of Hummers and other SUVs while scrawling love notes like "Fat, Lazy Americans" about the premises. In 2005, the Hummer H3, an even smaller 5,800 pounds, more fuel-efficient 16 to 20 miles per gallon vehicle was released. The following year, GM ended production of the original Hummer due to low sales. In 2008, as Americans faced a growing economic crisis and rising gas prices, along with increasing environmental concerns, Hummer sales shrunk by more than 50%. In December of 2008, GM, which was hard hit by the global recession and slumping auto sales, received a multi-billion-dollar federal bailout loan in order to stay afloat. On June 1st of 2009, the auto giant, which until 2008 had been the world's top-selling maker of cars and trucks, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. In 2020, 10 years after the last Hummer was produced, GM announced it would be relaunching the brand. The information documented on this audio file can be verified on history.com.